I'm very sorry, everybody. Give me just 1 second. I will get this sorted. I didn't realize my microphone wasn't on, wasn't being detected. There we go. My avatar was bouncing. I thought everything was fine. I didn't notice that my mic was not recording. So, hello, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful time zone, and if not, I hope I can make it just a little bit better. For those of you who haven't been here before, my name is Morden Reads Dracula. I'm a resident old man void side mechanic, variety streamer, voice actor. I go by he, him, and welcome on in. Tonight we are continuing our read through of Dracula. Hi, Neon. Welcome in. Good to see you. We are starting off at chapter 4. If you have not been here before, when I do reading streams, I will be turning off the sound alerts while I am reading. It will still be available uh, sometimes on the commercial breaks, sometimes in the post stream section and so forth. It will be a shorter stream, probably around 3 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. We'll see where it goes. And that's just because reading nonstop is tough. It's difficult, even when I'm not reading it like full volume and sending it full blast. Yeah, you made it. I mean, the benefit here of these stories is that it's I love doing it live when people are here, but also I'll have these VODs up for a bit. I think about 2 weeks, which will hold on to them, and I upload them to YouTube. I have all of my streams uploaded to YouTube. I just haven't made them all public yet. I need to get better at doing that. That's one of the things I've been working on for next year is making streams and playlists available on YouTube. But I do make it a habit to make all of the streams transfer over. They're not edited, but such is the way it is. But welcome in. I hope that we are able to get a few people falling asleep, and I'll hopefully find somebody who, when when we are done, that will not wake everybody up, but will continue on the chill vibes, and possibly even the horror. We'll see. But we will get started briefly. I just wanted to get a nice little get things, ready, let people wander in, and give people time to just settle in and relax. I've had something of a stressful week myself, so I know that the need to relax is high. I had to replace my phone. I had to do some other things. I've got to replace some lights that I still need to do. I had to give the dog some medication. I had to pick up the medication myself. Whole host of things. But here. So, just checking some things because I wanted to make sure my phone doesn't go off in the middle of the stream for a variety of reasons. Still getting all the settings just the way I like them. You know how it is when you ever get like a new computer or a new phone. You spend about a week, a month, depending, getting all the settings just where you like them, so you can use it the way you want to. So, that said, we left off last time on chapter 4. So that is where we'll pick up. We switch over to here. And let me make sure the eye tracking is on. Okay, eye tracking is on. All right, good. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the alerts now. Everything except me reading the book. Well, everything except what's picked up by my microphone, which could be puppies barking, could be the cat trying to nuzzle against the microphone or the windshield. Yes, I'm looking at you, Stormcloud. Delightful little criminal that you are. Remember, it's not crimes. If a cat does it, if a cat does it, it's just cat behavior. Can I get started? Or are you going to continue begging for treats? Okay, here we go. ASMR of giving the kitty cat treats. All right. So here we go. Chapter 4. Jonathan Harker's Journal. Continued. I awoke in my own bed. If it be that I had not dreamt, the Count must have carried me here. I tried to satisfy myself on the subject, but could not arrive to any unquestionable result. To be sure, there were certain small evidences, such as that my clothes were folded and laid by in a manner which was not my habit. My watch was still unwound, and I am rigorously accustomed to wind it the last thing before going to bed, and many such details. But these things are no proof, for they may have been evidences that my mind was not as usual, and from some cause or another I have certainly been very much upset. I must watch for proof. Of one thing I am glad. If it was that the Count carried me here and undressed me, he may have been hurried in his task, for my pockets are intact. I am sure this diary would have been a mystery to him, which he would not have brooked. He would have taken it or destroyed it. As I look round this room, although it has been to me so full of fear, it is now a sort of sanctuary, for nothing can be more dreadful than those awful women who are, waiting to suck my blood. Now, in the previous chapter, 3 women were getting ready to kiss him, and he seemed perfectly willing to allow that to happen. The question is, did he know that they meant to suck on his blood? Or was he hoping to just lay there and steal a kiss from beautiful women, even though he's engaged? I'm just saying. Seems like a bit of a cad. 18th of May. I have been down to look at that room again in daylight, for I must know the truth. When I got to the doorway at the top of the stairs, I found it closed. It had been so forcibly driven against the jamb that part of the woodwork was splintered. I could see that the bolt of the lock had not been shot, for the door was fastened from the inside. I fear it was no dream, and I must act on this sunrise. 19th of May. I am surely in the toils. Last night the Count asked me in the suavest tones to write 3 letters, one saying that my work here was nearly done, and that I should start for home within a few days, another that I was starting on the next morning from the time of the letter, and the third that I had left the castle and arrived at Bistrist. I would have fain rebelled, but felt that in the present state of things it would be madness to quarrel openly with the Count whilst I am so absolutely in his power, and to refuse would be to excite his suspicion and to arouse his anger. He knows that I know too much, and that I must not live, lest I be dangerous to him. My only chance is to prolong my opportunities. Something may occur which will give me a chance to escape. I saw in his eyes something of gathering wrath which was manifest when he hurled that fair woman from him. He explained to me that posts were few and uncertain, and that my writing would now ensure ease of mind to my friends. And he assured me with so much impressiveness that he would countermand the later letters, which would be held over at Bistrist until due time, in case chance would admit of my prolonging my stay. That to oppose him would have been to create new suspicion. I therefore pretended to fall in with his views, and asked him what dates I should put on the letters. He calculated a minute, and then said, "The first should be June 12th, the second June 19th, and the third June 29th. I now know the span of my life. God help me." 28th of May. There is a chance of escape, or at any rate of being able to send word home. A band of Zagani have come to the castle and are encamped in the courtyard. These Zagani are Romani, I'm just going to say. I have notes of them in my book. They are peculiar to this part of the world, though allied to the ordinary Romani of the world, all the world over. There are thousands of them in Hungary and Transylvania who are almost outside all law. They attach themselves as a rule to some great noble or boyar and call themselves by his name. They are fearless and without religion save superstition, and they talk only their own varieties of the Romani tongue. Oh, there he gets. Oh, sorry. I shall write some letters home, and shall try to get them to have them posted. I've already spoken them through my window. Begin acquaintanceship. They took their hats off and made obeisance and many signs, which, however, I could not understand any more than I could their spoken language. I have written the letters. Mina's is in shorthand, and I simply asked Mr. Hawkins to communicate with her. To her I have explained my situation, but without the horrors which I may only surmise. It would shock and frighten her to death were I to expose my heart to her. Should the letters not carry, then the Count shall not yet know my secret, or the extent of my knowledge. I have given these letters. I threw them through the bars of my window with a gold piece, and made what little men. Gremlins being a gremlin. I threw them through the bars of my window with a gold piece, and made what signs I could to have them posted. The man who took them pressed them to his heart and bowed, then put them in his cap. Could do no more. I stole back to the study and began to read. As the Count did not come in, I have written here. The Count has come. He sat down beside me and said in his smoothest voice as he opened 2 letters. The Zagani have given me these, of which I thought though I know not whence they came, I shall, of course, take care. See? I must have looked at it. One is from you, and to my friend Peter Hawkins. The other. Here he caught sight of the strange symbols as he opened the envelope, and a dark look came upon his face, and his eyes blazed wickedly. The other is a vile thing, an outrage upon friendship and hospitality. It is not signed. Well, so it cannot matter to us. He calmly held the letter and envelope in the flame of the lamp until they were consumed. He went on. The letter to Hawkins, that I shall of course send on, since it is yours. Your letters are sacred to me. Your pardon, my friend, that I unknowingly did break the seal. Will you not cover it again? He held out the letter to me, and with a courteous bow handed me a clean envelope. I could only redirect it and hand it to him in silence. When he went out of the room, I could hear the key turn softly. A minute later, I went over and tried it. Sorry, sneezed there. And the door was locked. When, an hour or 2 after, the Count came quietly into the room, his coming awakened me, for I had gone to sleep on the sofa. He was very courteous and very cheery in his manner, and seeing that I had been sleeping, he said, So, my friend, you are tired. Get to bed. There is the surest rest. I may not have the pleasure to talk tonight, since there are many labors to me, but you will sleep, I pray. I passed to my room and went to bed, and, strange to say, slept without dreaming. Despair has its own calms. 31st of May. This morning when I woke, I thought I would provide myself with some paper and envelopes from my bag and keep them in my pocket, so that I might write in case I should get an opportunity. But again a surprise, again a shock. Every scrap of paper was gone, and with it all my notes, my memoranda relating to railways and travel, my letter of credit, in fact, all that might be useful to me were once outside the castle. I sat and pondered a while, And then some thought occurred to me, and I made search of my portmanteau and the wardrobe where I had placed my clothes. The suit in which I had traveled was gone, and also my overcoat and rug. I could find no trace of them anywhere. This looked like some new scheme of villainy. 17th of June. This morning, as I was sitting on the edge of my bed, cudgeling my brains, I heard, without a cracking of whips or pounding and scraping of horses' feet up the rocky path beyond the courtyard. I heard without a cracking of whips and pounding and scraping of horses' feet up the rocky path beyond the courtyard. With joy, I hurried to the window and saw drive into the yard two great leiter wagons, each drawn by 8 sturdy horses, and at the head of each a pair of Slovakians, with his hat wide, great nail-studded belt, dirty sheepskin, and high boots. They had also their long staves in hand. I ran to the door, intending to descend and try to join them through the main hall, as I thought that way might be opened for them. Again, a shock. My door was fastened upon the outside. Then I ran to the window and cried to them. They looked up at me stupidly and pointed, but just then the hetman of the Zyganis came out, and seeing them pointing to my window or said something, at which they laughed. Henceforth, no effort of mine, no piteous cry or agonized entreaty would make them even look at me. They resolutely turned away. The leiter wagons contained great square boxes with handles of thick rope. These were evidently empty by the ease with which they handled them, and by their resonance as they were roughly moved. When they were all unloaded and packed in a great heap in one corner of the yard, they were given some money by the Zagani, and spitting on it for luck, lazily went each to his horse's head. Shortly afterwards, I heard the cracking of their whips die away in the distance. June, before morning. Last night, the Count left me early and locked himself in his own room. As soon as I dared, I ran up the winding stair and looked out of the window, which opened south. I thought I would watch for the Count, for there is something going on. The Zagani were quartered somewhere in the castle, and are doing work of some kind, I know it. For now and then I hear a far-away muffled sound, as of a mattock or spade, and whatever it is, it must be the end of some ruthless villainy. I had been at the window somewhat less than half an hour when I saw something coming out of the Count's window. I drew back and watched carefully, and saw the whole man emerge. It was a new shock to me to find that he had on the suit of clothes which I had worn whilst travelling here, and slung over his shoulder the terrible bag which I had seen the women take away. There could be no doubt as to his quest, and in my garb, too. This, then, is his new scheme of evil, that he will allow others to see me as they think, so that he may both leave evidence that I have been seen in the towns or villages posting my own letters, and that any wickedness which he may do shall by the local people be attributed to me. It makes me rage to think that this can go on, and whilst I am shut up here a veritable prisoner, but without that protection of the law which is even a criminal's right consolation. I thought I would watch for the Count's return, and for a long time sat doggedly at the window. Then I began to notice there were some quaint little specks floating in the rays of moonlight. They were like the tiniest grains of dust, and they whirled round and gathered in clusters in a nebulous sort of way. I watched them with a sense of soothing, and a sort of calm stole over me. I leaned back in the embrasure of a more comfortable position, so that I could enjoy more fully the aerial gambolling. Something made me start up. A low, piteous howling of dogs somewhere far below in the valley. It was hidden from my sight. Louder it seemed to ring in my ears, and the floating motes of dust take new shapes to the sound as they danced in the moonlight. I felt myself struggling to awake to some call of my instincts. Nay, my very soul was struggling, and my half-remembered sensibilities were striving to answer the call. I was becoming hypnotized, hypnotized. Blech. Quicker and quicker danced the dust. The moonbeams seemed to quiver as they went by me into the massive gloom beyond. More and more they gathered till they seemed to take dim phantom shapes. And then I started, broad awake and in full possession of my senses, and ran screaming from the place. The phantom shapes, which were becoming gradually materialized from the moonbeams, were those of the three ghostly women to whom I was doomed. I fled, and felt somewhat safer in my own room, where there was no moonlight, and where the lamp was burning brightly. Oop, I forgot to full screen that. Sorry. Oh, I just full screened the wrong thing. There we go. Much better. And why is it? That's so weird. OBS is being very silly, right? I do apologize, everybody. There we go. Much. When a couple of hours had passed, I heard something stirring in the Count's room, something like a sharp wail quickly suppressed, and then there was silence. Deep, awful silence, which chilled me. With a beating heart, I tried the door, but I was locked in my prison and could do nothing. I sat down and simply cried. As I sat, I heard a sound in the courtyard without, the agonized cry of a woman. I rushed to the window and, throwing it up, peered between the bars. There indeed was a woman with disheveled hair, holding her hands over her heart as one distressed with running. She was leaning against a corner of the gateway. When she saw my face at the window, she threw herself forward, shouted in a voice laden with menace, "Monster! Give me my child!" She threw herself on her knees and, raising up her hands, cried the same words in tones which wrung my heart. She then tore her hair and beat her breast and abandoned herself to all the violences of extravagant emotion. Finally, she threw herself forward, and though I could not see her, I could hear the beating of her naked hands against the door. Somewhere high overhead, probably on the tower, I heard the voice of the Count calling in his harsh metallic whisper. His call seemed to be answered from far and wide by the howling of wolves. Before many minutes had passed, a pack of them poured like a pent-up dam when liberated through the wide entrance into the courtyard. There was no cry from the woman, and the howling of the wolves was but short. Before long, they streamed away singly, licking their lips. Hi, Kai. What a time to enter into the stream with Dob. I could not pity her, for I knew now what had become of her child, and she was better dead. What shall I do? What can I do? How can I escape from this dreadful thing of night and gloom and fear? 25th of June, morning. No man knows till he has suffered from the night how sweet and how dear to his heart and eye the morning can be. And the sun grew so high this morning that it struck the top of the great gateway opposite my window. The high spot which it touched seemed to me as if the dove from the ark had lighted there. My fear fell from me as if it had been a vaporous garment which dissolved in the warmth. I must take action of some sort whilst the courage of the day is upon me. Last night, one of my post-dated letters went to post. The first of that fatal series, which is to blot out the very traces of my existence from the earth. Let me not think of it. Action. It has always been at night time that I have been molested or threatened, or in some way in danger or in fear. I have not yet seen the Count in the daylight. Can it be that he sleeps when others wake? That he may be awake whilst they sleep? If only I could get into his room. But there is no possible way. The door is always locked. No way for me. Yet, there is a way, if one dares to take it. Where his body has gone, may not another body go? I have seen him myself crawl from his window. Why should I not imitate him and go in by his window? The chances are desperate, but my need is more desperate still. I shall risk it. At the worst, it can only be death. And a man's death is not a calf's, and the dreaded hereafter may still be open to me. God help me in my task. Goodbye, Mina, if I fail. Goodbye, my faithful friend and second father. Goodbye, all, and last of all, Mina. And say goodbye to Mina twice. Same day, later. I have made the effort, and God helping me, I've come safely back into this room. I must put down every detail in order. I went whilst my courage was fresh, straight to the window on the south side, and at once got outside on the narrow ledge of stone which runs around the building on this side. The stones are big and roughly cut, and the mortar has by process of time been washed away between them. I took off my boots and ventured out on the desperate way. I looked down once, so as to make sure that a sudden glimpse of the awful depth would not overcome me, but after that kept my eyes away from it. I knew pretty well the direction and distance to the Count's window, and made for it as well as I could, having regard to the opportunities available. I did not feel dizzy. I suppose I was too excited, and the time seemed ridiculously short till I found myself standing on the window-sill and trying to raise up the sash. I was filled with agitation, however, when I bent down and slid feet foremost in through the window. Then I looked around for the Count, but with surprise and gladness made a discovery. The room was empty. It was barely furnished with odd things, which seems to have never been used. The furniture was something of the same style as that in the south rooms, and was covered with dust. I looked for the key, but it was not on the lock. It was not in the lock, and I could not find it anywhere. The only thing I found was a great heap of gold in one corner. Gold of all kinds: Roman, British, Austrian, Hungarian, and Greek and Turkish money, covered with a film of dust, as if though it had lain long on the ground. None of it that I noticed was less than 300 years old. There were also chains and ornaments, some jeweled, but all of them old and stained. At one corner of the room was a heavy door. I tried it, for since I could not find the key of the room or the key of the outer door, which was the main object of my search, I must make further examination, or all my efforts would be in vain. It was open, and led through a stone passage to a circular stairway, which went steeply down. I descended, minding carefully where I went, for the stairs were dark, being only lit by loopholes in the heavy masonry. At the bottom was a dark, tunnel-like passage, through which came a deathly, sickly odor, the odor of old earth newly turned. As I went through the passage, the smell grew closer and heavier. At last, I pulled open a heavy door which stood ajar, and found myself in an old, ruined chapel, which had evidently been used as a graveyard. The roof was broken, and in two places were steps leading to the vaults. But the ground had recently been dug over, and the earth placed in great wooden boxes, manifestly those which had been brought by the Slovaks. There was nobody around, and I made search for any further outlet, but there was none. Then I went over every inch of the ground, so as not to lose a chance. I went down even into the vaults, where the dim light struggled, although to do so was a dread to my very soul. Into two of these I went, but saw nothing except fragments of old coffins and piles of dust. In the third, however, I made a discovery. There, in one of the great boxes, of which there were 50 in all, on a pile of newly dug earth lay the Count. He was either dead or asleep, I could not say which. The eyes were open and stony, but without the glassiness of death, and the cheeks had the warmth of life through all their pallor. The lips were as red as ever, but there was no sign of movement, no pulse, no breath, no beating of the heart. I bent over him and tried to find any sign of life, but in vain. He could not have lain there long, for the earthy smell would have passed away in a few hours. By the side of the box was this cover, pierced with holes here and there. I thought he might have these on him. When I went to search, I saw the dead eyes, and in them, dead though they were, such a look of hate, though unconscious of me or my presence, that I fled from the place, leaving the Count's room by the window, crawling again up the castle wall. Regaining my room, I threw myself panting onto the bed and tried to think. The 29th of June. Today is the date of my last letter. The Count has taken steps to prove that it was genuine, for again I saw him leave the castle by the same window and in my clothes. As he went down that wall, lizard fashion, I wished I had a gun or some lethal weapon that I might destroy him, but I fear that no weapon wrought alone by man's hands would have any effect on him. I dared not wait to see him return, for I feared to see those weird sisters. I came back to the library and read there till I fell asleep. I was awakened by the Count, who looked at me as grimly as a man can look as he said, "Tomorrow, my friend, we must part. You return to your beautiful England, I to some work which may have such an end that we may never meet. Your letter home has been dispatched. Tomorrow I shall not be here, but all shall be ready for your journey. In the morning come the Zagani, who have some labors of their own here, but also come some Slovaks. When they have gone, my carriage shall come for you, and shall bear you to the Borgo path, to meet diligence from Bukovina and Bistris. But I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula." I suspected him and determined to test his sincerity. Sincerity? It seems like a profanation of the word to write down in connection with such a monster. So I asked him point blank, "Why may I not go tonight?" "Because, dear sir, my coachman and horses are away on a mission." "But I would walk with pleasure. I want to get away at once." He smiled, such a soft, smooth, diabolical smile that I knew there was some trick behind his smoothness. He said, "And your baggage?" "I do not care about it. I can send for it some other time." The Count stood up and said, with a sweet courtesy which made me rub my eyes, it seemed so real, You English have a saying which is close to my heart, for its spirit is that which rules our boyars. Welcome the coming, speed the parting guest. Come with me, my dear young friend. Not an hour shall you wait in my house against your will, though sad I am at your going, and that you suddenly desire it. Come. With a stately gravity, he with the lamp preceded me down the stairs and along the hall. Suddenly, stop. Hark. Close at hand came the howling of many wolves. It was almost as if the sound sprang up at the rising of his hand, just as the music of a great orchestra seemed to leap under the baton of a conductor. After a pause of a moment, he proceeded in his stately way to the door, drew back the ponderous bolts, unhooked the heavy chains, and began to draw it open. To my intense astonishment, I saw that it was unlocked. Suspiciously, I looked all round, but could see no key of any kind. As the door began to open, the howling of the wolves without grew louder and angrier. Their red jaws, with champing teeth, and their blunt clawed feet as they leaped, came in through the opening door. I knew then that to struggle at the moment against the Count was useless. With such allies as these at his command, I could do nothing. But still the door continued slowly to open, and only the Count's body stood in the gap. Suddenly, it struck me that this might be the moment and means of my doom. I was to be given to the wolves at my own instigation. There was a diabolical wickedness in the idea great enough for the Count. And as the last chance I cried out, "Shut the door! I shall wait till morning," and covered my face with my hands to hide my tears of bitter disappointment. With one sweep of his powerful arm, the Count threw the door shut, and the great bolts clanged and echoed through the hall as they shot back into their places. In silence, we returned to the library, and after a minute or two, I went to my own room. The last I saw of Count Dracula was his kissing his hand to me, with a red light of triumph in his eyes, and with a smile that Judas in hell might be proud of. When I was in my room and about to lie down, I thought I heard a whispering at my door. I went to it softly and listened. Unless my ears deceived me, I heard the voice of the Count. Back, back to your own place. Your time is not yet come. Wait. Have patience. Tonight is mine. Tomorrow night is yours. There was a low, sweet ripple of laughter, and in a rage I threw open the door and saw without 3 terrible women licking their lips. As I appeared, they all joined in a horrible laugh and ran away. I came back to my room and threw myself on my knees. Is it so? Is it then so near the end? Tomorrow, tomorrow, Lord, help me and to those I hold, to whom I am dear. 30th of June, morning. These may be the last words I ever write in this diary. I slept till just before dawn, and when I woke, threw myself on my knees, for I determined that if death came, he should find me ready. At last I felt that subtle change in the air, and knew that morning had come. Then came the welcome cock crow, and I felt that I was safe. With a glad heart, I opened my door and ran down to the hall. To the hall. I had seen that the door was unlocked. Now escape was before me. With hands that trembled with eagerness, I unhooked the chains and drew back the massive bolts. The massive bolts. But the door would not move. Despair seized me. I pulled and pulled at the door, and it shook it until, massive as it was, it rattled in its casement. I could see the bolt shot. It had been locked after I left the Count. Then a wild desire took me to obtain that key at any risk, and I determined then and there to scale the wall again and again and gain the Count's room. He might kill me, but death now seemed the happier choice of the evils. Without a pause, I rushed up to the east window and scrambled down the wall, as before, into the Count's room. It was empty. That was what I expected. I could not see a key anywhere, but the heap of gold remained. I went through the door into the corner, and down the winding stair and along the dark passage to the old chapel. I knew now well enough where to find the monster I sought. The great box was in the same place, close against the wall, but the lid was laid on it, not fastened down, but with the nails ready in their places to be hammered home. I knew I must reach the body for the key, so I raised the lid, laid it against the wall, and then I saw something which filled my very soul with horror. There lay the Count, but looking as if his youth had been half renewed, for the white hair and mustache were changed to a dark iron gray. Cheeks were fuller, and the white skin seemed ruby red underneath. The mouth was redder than ever, for on the lips were gouts of fresh blood, trickled from the corners of the mouth and ran over the chin and neck. Even the deep, burning eyes seemed set amongst swollen flesh, for the lids and pouches underneath were bloated. It seemed as if the whole awful creature was simply gorged with blood. He lay like a filthy leech, exhausted with his repletion. I shuddered as I bent over to touch him. Every sense in me revolted at the contact. Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. The contact. But I had to search, or I was lost. The coming night might see my own body a banquet in a similar way to those horrid three. I felt all over the body, but no sign could I find of the key. Then I stopped and looked at the Count. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face which seemed to drive me mad. This was the being I was helping transfer to London, where perhaps for centuries to come he might, amongst its teeming millions, satiate his lust for blood and create a new and ever-widening circle of semi-demons to batten on the helpless. The very thought drove me mad. A terrible desire came upon me to rid the world of such a monster, but there was no lethal weapon at hand. But I seized a shovel which the workmen had been using to fill the cases, and lifting it high, struck with the edge downward at his hateful face. But as I did so, the head turned, and the eyes fell full upon me with all their blaze of basilisk horror. The sight seemed to paralyze me, and the shovel turned in my hand and glanced from my face, merely making a deep gash above the forehead. The shovel fell from my hand again across the box, and as I pulled away, the flange of the blade caught the edge of the lid, which fell over again and hid the horrid thing from my sight. The last glimpse I had was of the bloated face, blood-stained and fixed with a grin of malice, which would have held its own in the nethermost hell. thought and thought what should be my next move. But my brain seemed on fire, and I waited with a despairing feeling growing over me. As I waited, I heard in the distance a song sung by merry voices coming closer, and through their song the rolling of heavy wheels and the cracking of whips. The Zagani and Slovaks, of whom the Count had spoken, were coming. With a last look around, and the box which contained the vile body, I ran from the place and gained the Count's room, determined to rush out at the moment the door should be opened. With strained ears I listened and heard downstairs the grinding of the key in the great lock and the falling back of the heavy door. There must have been some other means of entry, or someone had a key for one of the locked doors. Then there came the sound of many feet tramping and dying away in some passage, which set up a clanging echo. I turned to run down again towards the vault, where I might find the new entrance. At the moment there seemed to come a violent puff of wind, and the door to the winding stair blew to with a shock that set the dust from the lintels flying. When I ran to push it open, I found that it was hopelessly fast. I was again a prisoner, and the net of doom was closing around me more closely. As I write, there is in the passage below a sound of many tramping feet, and the crash of weights being set down heavily, doubtless boxes with their freight of earth. There is a sound of hammering, as the box being nailed down. Now I can hear the heavy feet tramping again along the hall, with many other idle feet coming behind them. Sorry. Now I can hear the heavy feet tramping again along the hall, with many other idle feet coming behind them. The door is shut, and the chains rattle. There is a grinding of the key in the lock. I can hear the key withdraw, and then another door opens and shuts. I hear the creaking of lock and bolt. Hark! In the courtyard, and down the rocky way, the roll of heavy wheels, the crack of whips, and the chorus of the Zagani as they pass into the distance. I am alone in the castle with those awful women. Ah, Mina's a woman there is not in common. They are devils of the pit. I shall not remain alone with them. I shall try to scale the castle wall farther than I have yet attempted. I shall take some of the gold with me, lest I want it later. I may find a way from this dreadful place, and then away for home, away to the quickest and nearest train, away from this cursed spot, from this cursed land, where the devil and his children still walk with earthly feet. At least God's mercy is better than that of these monsters, and the precipice is steep and high. At its foot a man may sleep as a man. Goodbye, all. Goodbye, Mina. The end of chapter 4. Ooh. He is having a day. I suppose the real question will be, will he escape unharmed? Or will he fall prey to those horrible women? But yes, welcome in, guys. Good to see you. You chose an excellent time to come in, followed by dogs. All right. Ad break is coming in on us, so I'm going to make another cup of tea and get ready to read chapter 5. See you all soon. right, and we are back. A nice new cup of tea, and let's see about getting started. All right. Chapter 5. Letter from Miss Mina Murray to Miss Lucy Westerner. Westen. Westen. West, 9th of May. My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing, but I have been simply overwhelmed with work. The life of an assistant schoolmistress is sometimes trying. I am longing to be with you and by the sea where we can talk together freely and build our castles in the air. I have been working very hard lately because I want to keep up with Jonathan's studies, and I have been practicing shorthand very assiduously. When we are married, I shall be able to be useful to Jonathan, and if I can stenograph well enough, I can take down what he wants to say in this way and write it out for him on the typewriter, at which I am also practicing very hard. He and I sometimes write letters in shorthand, and he's keeping a stenographic journal of his travels abroad. When I'm with you, I shall keep a diary in the same way. I don't mean one of those 2 pages of the week to the week with Sunday squeezed in a corner diaries, but a sort of journal which I can write in whenever I feel inclined. I do not suppose that there will be much of interest to other people, but it is not intended for them. I may show it to Jonathan some day if there's anything worth sharing. If there is in it anything worth sharing. But it is really an exercise book. I shall try to do what I see lady journalists do, interviewing and writing descriptions and trying to remember conversations. I am told that with a little practice, one can remember all that goes on or that one hears said during a day. However, we shall see. I will tell you of my little plans when we meet. I have just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan from Transylvania. He is well and will be returning in about a week. I am longing to hear from Jonathan. I'm longing to hear all his news. It must be so nice to see strange countries. I wonder if Jonathan and I, shall ever see them together. There is 10 o'clock bell ringing. Goodbye. Yours, loving, Mina. Tell me all the news when you write. You have not told me anything for a long time. I hear rumors, especially of a tall, handsome, curly-haired man. Letter. Lucy Westerner to Mina Murray. My dearest Mina, I must say you tax me very unfairly with being a bad correspondent. I wrote to you twice since we parted, and your last letter was only your second. Besides, I have nothing to tell you. There is really nothing to interest you. Town is very pleasant just now, and we go a good deal to picture galleries and for walks and rides in the park. As to the tall, curly-haired man, I suppose it was the one who was with me at the last pop. Someone has evidently been telling tales. That was Mr. Holmwood. He often comes to see us, and he and Mamma get on very well together. They have so many things to talk about in common. We met some time ago a man who would just do for you if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He's an excellent parti, being handsome, well off, and of good birth. He's a doctor and really clever. Just fancy. He is only 29, and he has an immense lunatic asylum all under his own care. Mr. Holmwood just introduced him to me, and he called here to see, and he called here to see us, and often comes now. I think he is one of the most resolute men I have ever saw, and yet the most calm. He seems absolutely imperturbable. I can fancy what a wonderful power he must have over his patients. He has a curious habit of looking one straight in the face, as if trying to read one's thoughts. He tries this very much with me, but I flatter myself he has got a tough nut to crack. I know that from my class. You ever try to read your own face? I do, and I can tell you it is not a bad study. It gives you more trouble than you can well fancy if you have never tried it. He says that I afford him a curious psychological study, and I humbly think I do. I do not, as you know, take sufficient interest in dress to be able to describe the new fashions. Dress is a bore. That is slang again, but never mind. Father says that every day. There, it is all out, Mina. We have told our secrets. We have told all our secrets to each other since we were children. We have slept together and eaten together and laughed and cried together. And now, though I have spoken, I would like to speak more. Oh, Mina, couldn't you guess? I love him. I am blushing as I write, for although I think he loves me, he has not told me so in words. But, oh, Mina, I love him. I love him. I love him. There, that does me good. I wish I were with you, dear, sitting by the fire, undressing as we used to sit, and I would try to tell you what I feel. I do not know how I am writing this even to you. I am afraid to stop, or I should tear up the letter, and I don't want to stop, for I do so want to tell you all. Please let me hear from you at once, and tell me all you think about it. Tell me all you think about it, Mina. Mina, I must stop. Good night. Bless me in your prayers, and Mina, pray for my happiness. Lucy. Yes, I need not tell you that this is a secret. Good night again. Letter, Lucy Wisterna to Mina Murray. My dearest Mina, thanks and thanks and thanks again for your sweet letter. It was so nice to be able to tell you and have your sympathy. My dear, it never rains but it pours. How true the old proverbs are. Here I am, who shall be 20 in September, and yet I have never had a proposal till today, not a real proposal, and today I have had 3. Just fancy, 3 proposals in one day. Isn't it awful? I feel sorry, really and truly sorry for the 2 of the poor fellows. Oh, Mina, I am so happy that I don't know what to do with myself, and 3 proposals. But for goodness sakes, don't tell any of the girls, or they would be getting all sorts of extravagant ideas and imagining themselves injured and slighted if in their very first day at home they did not get 6 at least. Some girls are so vain. You and I, Mina dear, who are engaged and are going to settle down soon soberly into old married women, can despise vanity. Well, I must tell you about the 3, but you must keep it a secret, dear, from everyone, except, of course, Jonathan. You will tell him because I would if I were in your place. Certainly tell Arthur. Because I would, in your place, certainly tell Arthur. A woman ought to tell her husband everything. Don't you think so, dear? And I must be fair. Men, like women, certainly their wives, be quite as fair as they are, and women, I'm afraid, are not always quite as fair as they should be. Well, my dear, number 1 just came before lunch. I told you of him, Dr. John Seward, the lunatic asylum man, with the strong jaw and the good forehead. He was very cool outwardly, but nervous all the same. He had evidently been schooling himself as to all sorts of little things and remembered them, but he almost managed to sit down on his silk hat, which men generally don't do when they are cool. And then, when he wanted to appear at ease, he kept playing with a lancet in a way that made me nearly scream. He spoke to me, Mina, very straightforwardly. He told me how dear I was to him, and though he had known me so little, and what his life would be without, though he had known me so little, and what his life would be with me to help and cheer him, he was going to tell me how unhappy he would be if I did not care for him. But when he saw me cry, he said that he was a brute and would not add to my present trouble. Then he broke off and asked if I could love him in time. And when I shook my head, his hands trembled. And then, with some hesitation, he asked me if I cared already for anyone else. He put it very nicely, saying that he did not want to wring my confidence from me, but only to know, because if a woman's heart was free, a man might have hope. And then, Mina, I felt a sort of duty to tell him that there was someone. I only told him that much. And then he stood up, and he looked very strong and very grave as he took both of my hands in his and said that he hoped I would be happy, and that if I ever wanted a friend, I must count him among one of my best. Oh, Mina, dear, I can't help crying. You must excuse this letter being all blotted. Being proposed to is all very nice and all that sort of thing, but it isn't at all a happy thing when you have to see a poor fellow whom you know loves you honestly, going away and looking all broken-hearted, and to know that no matter what he may say in that moment, you are passing quite out of his life. My dear, I must stop here at present. I feel so miserable, though I am so happy. Evening. Arthur has just gone, and I feel in better spirits when I left off, so I can go on telling you about the day. Well, my dear, number two came after lunch. He is such a nice fellow, an American from Texas, and he looks so young and so fresh that it seemed almost impossible that he has been to so many places and has had such adventures. I sympathize with poor Desdemona when she had a dangerous dream poured in her ear. I'm going to skip that part real quick. I suppose that we women are such cowards that we think a man will save us from fears and we marry him. I now know what I would do if I were a man and wanted to make a girl love me. No, I don't. For there was Mr. Morris telling us his stories, and Arthur never told any, and yet, my dear, I am somewhat previous. Mr. Quincy P. Morris found me alone. It seems that a man does always find a girl alone. No, he doesn't, for Arthur tried twice to make a chance, and I helped him all I could. And I am not ashamed to say it now. I best tell you beforehand that Mr. Morris doesn't always speak slang, and that is to say, he never does so to strangers or before them, for he is really well educated and has exquisite manner. But he found out that it amused me to hear him talk American slang, and whenever I was present, and there was no one to be shocked, he said such funny things. I'm afraid, my dear, he has to invent it all, for it fits exactly into whatever else he has to say. But this is a way slang has. I do not know myself if I should ever speak slang. I do not know if Arthur likes it, as I have never heard him use any as of yet. Well, Mr. Morris sat down beside me and looked all happy and jolly as he could, but I could see all the same that he was very nervous. He took my hand in his and said ever so sweetly, Miss Lucy, I know I ain't good enough to regulate the fixings of your little shoes, but I guess if you were to wait till you found a man that is, you will go join them 7 young women with the lamps when you quit. Won't you just hitch up alongside of me and let us go down to the long road together, driving in double harness? It looked so good-humored and jolly that it didn't seem half so hard to refuse him as it did to poor Dr. Seward. So I said, as lightly as I could, that I did not know anything of hitching, and that if I wasn't broken to a I wasn't broken to a harness at all yet. Then he said that he had spoken in a light manner, and he hoped that if he had made a mistake in doing so, on grave, so momentous an occasion for him, I would forgive him. He really did look serious when he was saying it, and I couldn't help but feeling a bit serious too. I know, Mina, you will think me a horrid flirt, though I couldn't help feeling a sort of exultation that he was number 2 in one day. And then, my dear, before I could say a word, he began pouring out a perfect torrent of love-making, laying his very heart and soul at my feet. He looked so earnest over it that I shall never again think that a man must be playful always. and never earnest. Because he is merry at times, I suppose he saw something in my face which checked him, for he suddenly stopped, and said with a sort of manly fervor that I could have loved him for if I had been free. Lucy, you are an honest-hearted girl, I know. I should not be here speaking to you as I am now if I did not believe you clean grit right through the very depths of your soul. Tell me, like one good fellow to another, is there anyone else that you care for? If there is, I'll never trouble you a hair's breadth again, but will be, if you let me, a very faithful friend. My dear Mina, why are men so noble when we women give so little worthy of them? Are so little worthy of them? Here I was almost making fun of this great-hearted, true gentleman. I burst into tears. I am afraid, my dear, you will think this a very sloppy letter in more ways than one. And I really felt very badly. Why can't they let a girl marry 3 men, or as many as want her, and save all this trouble? But this is heresy, and I must not say it. I am glad to say that, though I was crying, I was able to look into Mr. Morris's brave eyes and told him out straight, yes, there is someone I love, though he has not told me yet that he even loves me. I was right to speak to him so frankly, for quite a light came to his face, and he put out both his hands and took mine. I think I put them into his, and said in a hearty way, there's my brave girl. It's better worth being late for a chance of winning you than being in time for any other girl in the world. Don't cry, my dear. If it's for me, I'm a hard nut to crack. And I take it standing up. If that other fellow doesn't know his doesn't know his happiness, well, he'd better look for it soon, or he'll have to deal with me. Little girl, your honesty and pluck have made me a friend. That's rarer than a lover, and more unselfish anyhow. My dear, I'm going to have a pretty lonely walk between this and Kingdom Come. Won't you give me one kiss? Maybe something to keep off the darkness now and then. You can, if you like, for the other good fellow. He must be a good fellow, my dear, and a fine fellow, or you could not love him. Hasn't spoken yet. That quite won me, Mina, for it was brave and sweet of him, and noble, too, to a rival, wasn't it? And he's so sad. I leant over and kissed him. I stood up, my 2 hands in his, as he looked down into my face. I'm afraid I was blushing very much, and he said, little girl, I hold your hand and you've kissed me. And if these things don't make us friends, nothing ever will. Thank you for your sweet honesty to me, and goodbye. He wrung my hand, and taking up his hat, went straight out of the room without looking back, without a tear, a quiver, or a pause. And I am crying like a baby. Oh, why must a man like that be made unhappy when there are lots of girls about who would worship the very ground he trod on? I know I would if I were free, only I don't want to be free. My dear, this is quite upset me. I feel I cannot write of happiness just at once after telling you of it. I don't wish to tell the number 3 until all can be happy. Ever your loving Lucy. Yes. Oh, about number 3. I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Besides, it was all so confused. It seemed only a moment from his coming into the room, till both arms were round me, and he was kissing me. I am very, very happy, and I don't know what I have done to deserve it. I must only try in the future to show that I am not ungrateful to God and all his goodness to me in sending me to me such a lover, such a husband, and such a friend. Goodbye. I mean, girl was born just a little too early for that kind of relationship. I do like that she mentions that she wants to paint her wagon, is what I'm hearing. Dr. Seward's Diary, kept in phonograph. 25th of May. Ebb tide and appetite today. Cannot eat, cannot rest, so diary instead. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Nothing in the world seems of sufficient importance to be worth the doing. As I knew that the only cure for this sort of thing was work, I went down amongst the patients. I picked out one who has afforded me a study of much interest. He is so quaint that I am determined to understand him as well as I can. Today I seem to get nearer than ever before to the heart of his mystery. I questioned him more fully than I had ever done, with a view of making myself master of the facts of his hallucination. In my manner of doing it there was, I now see, something of cruelty. I seemed to wish to keep him on the point of his madness, a thing which I avoid with patience as I would the mouth of hell. Memo, under what circumstances would I not avoid the pit of hell? Omnia Romae venaria sum. Hell has its price. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. If there be anything behind this instinct, it will be valuable to trace it afterwards accurately. So I had better commence to do so. Therefore, R. M. Renfield, Etat 59. Sanguine temperament, great physical strength, morbidly excitable, periods of gloom ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out. I presume that the sanguine temperament itself and the disturbing influence end in a mentally accomplished finish. A possibly dangerous man, probably dangerous if unselfish. In selfish men, caution is as secure as an armor for for their foes as for themselves. What I think on that point, what I think of on this point is when the self is fixed point and the centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal. When a duty, a cause, etc. is a fixed point, the latter force is paramount, and only an accident or series of accidents can balance it. Letter, Quincy P. Morris to Honorable Arthur Homewood, 25th May. My dear Art, we told yarns about the campfire and the prairies, and rested on one another's wounds after trying to land it at the Marcasaw, and drunk healths to the shore, and drunk healths on the shore of the Titicaca. There are more yarns to be told, and more the wounds to be healed, and another health to be drunk. Won't you let this be my campfire to tomorrow night? I have no hesitation in asking you, and as I know a certain lady is engaged to a certain dinner party, you are free. There will be only one other, our old pal at the Korea, Jack Seward. He's coming too. And we both want to mingle our weeps under the wine cup and to drink health with our hearts to the happiest man in the whole wide world. He was one the noblest heart that God has made, and the best worst winning. We promise you a hearty welcome, and a lovely greeting, and a health as true as your own right hand. We shall both swear to leave you at home if you drink too deep to a certain pair of eyes. Come, yours ever and always, Quincy P. Morris. Telegram from Arthur Homewood, Quincy P. Morris. Count me in every time. I bear messages which will make both your ears tingle. End of chapter 5. Oh my. Scandalous, even. Oh. Chapter 6. Mina Murray's Journal. 24th July, Whitby. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the Crescent, in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, the Esk, runs through a deep valley, which broadens out as it comes near the harbour. A great viaduct runs across with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, It is so steep that when you are on the high land on either side, you look right across it unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, the side away from us, are all red roofed and seem piled up one over the other anyhow, like the pictures we see of Nuremberg. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin of immense size, and full of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend of a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town there is another church, the parish one, around which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. That is, to my mind, the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town, and has a full view of the harbour, and all up the bay to where the headland called the Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbour that part of the bank has fallen away, and some of the graves have been destroyed. In one place, part of the stonework of the grave stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats beside them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit here very often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now with my book on my knee and listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting besides me. They seem to do nothing all day but sit up here and talk. The harbour lies below me with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with a curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy sea wall runs outside of it. On the near side, the sea wall makes an elbow crooked inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between the 2 piers there is a narrow opening into the harbour, which then suddenly widens. It is nice at high water, but when the tide is out, it shoals away to nothing, and there's merely the stream of the Esk running between the banks of sand, with rocks here and there. Outside the harbour on this side there rises for about half a mile a great reef, the sharp edge of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with a bell, which swings in bad weather and sends in a mournful sound on the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He is a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is all gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and he was the sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I'm afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at the sea and the White Lady at the Abbey, he said very brusquely, "I wouldn't fast marshal about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say they never was, but I do say they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for comers and trippers and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds would always be eating curd herrings and drinking tea and looking out to buy cheap jet would creed up. I wonder myself who would be bothered telling lies to 'em, in the newspapers, which is full of fool talk." I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he laboured to get up and said, "Aye, Miss Gang again, where's home now, miss? My granddaughter don't like to be kept waiting when the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crown all the geese. For there be many of 'em, and miss, I like Billy Timber sairly by the clock." I'm sorry, that was just wonderful. Oh. As he hobbled away, I could see him hurrying as well as he could down the steps. The steps are a great feature on the place. They lead from the town up to the church, and there are hundreds of them. I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must originally have had something to do with the abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out visiting with her mother. As they were only duty calls, I did not go. They will be home by this 1st of August. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who will always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything, and downfaces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them, and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she's been here. I noticed that old Ben did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when we sat down. She is so sweet with old people. I think they all fell in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of legends, and he went off at once in a sort of sermon. I must try to remember to put it down. It all be fool talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and not else. These barons and wafts and boghosts and bargusts and bogles, and all of them is only fit to set bairns and dizzy women of bouldering. They be not but air blebs. They, and all grims and signs and warnings, be all invented by parsons and some book bodies and whale retoters to skeer and scunner halflings and to get folks to do something they don't do kind to do. It makes me ireful to think of 'em. Aye, it's them that, not content with printing lies on paper and preaching them out of pulpits, does want to be cutting them on the tombstones. Look here, and ye, in what I you will. All them steens holding up their heads as well as they can out of their pride. These a can't. Simply tumbling down with the weight of lies wrote on them. Here lies the body, or sacred to the memory, wrote on all of them. And yet nigh half of them there bean't no bodies at all, and the memories of them bean't carried to pinch snuff about. They're sacred. Lies, all of them. Nothing but lies of one kind or another. My gog, it'll be a car scaldrement at the day of judgment when they come tumbling up in their death sacks, all drooped together and trying to drag their tombstones with them and prove how good they was. Some of them trembling and dithering, with their hands a dozen off as slippy from lying in the sea, that they can't even keep their grip of them. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air and the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off. I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are not all wrong. Goblins! They may be a poorish few, not wrong, saving what they make for the people too good. For there be folk that do think a balm bow like the sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now look you here. You came here, stranger, and you see this kirkyard. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on. And you can't say to all these sleens be about folk that happened here, snod and snog? I assented again. Then that be just where the lie comes in. Why, there be scores of these lay beds that be tomb as old doons back a box on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my gog, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one. The after bet the beer bank. Read it. I went over and read. Edward Spencelow, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April of 1854. At 30. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on. Who brought him here, I wonder? To hap him here. Murdered off the coast of Andres. And he consented his body lay under. Why, I could name ye a dozen whose bones lie in this Greenland seas above. He pointed northwards, or where the currents may have drifted them. There be the steens around ye. You can with your young eyes read the small print that lies from here. His bright white glory. I knew his father. Lost in the lively off the Greenland in 20. Randrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same season, 1777. Or John Baxton, drowned off the Cape Farrell a year later. Or old John Rawlings, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men will have to make a rush to Whitby when the trumpet sounds? I have me anthems about it. I tell ye that when ye got here, they'd be joining and jostling one another in a way it'd be like fight up on the ice of the old days, when we'd be at each other from daylight to dark and trying to tie up our cuts by the lights of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you're not quite correct, for you start with the assumption that all the poor people, however their spirits, will have to take their tombstones with them on the day of judgment. Do you think that will really be necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. Oh, to please their relatives, you suppose? This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure the relatives to know that their lies is wrote over them? That everybody in the place knows they be lies? He pointed to the stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on that thrustrim, he said. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them and leant over and read. Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of glorious resurrection on July 29, 1873, falling from the box at Kettleness. This tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother to her dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swales, I don't see anything very funny in that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. You don't see aught funny? That's because you don't gone the son of his mother was a hellcat that hated him, besides because he was crude. A regular amateur he was, and he hated her so that he committed suicide in order that she mightn't get an insurance that she put on his life. He blew nigh on the top of the head with an old musket that they had for scaring crows with. Weren't the crows then, for it brought the clegs that drops of them. That's the way he fell off the rocks. And as to hopes of a glorious resurrection, I'd often heard himself say himself that he'd hoped to go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure to go to heaven, and he didn't want to addle where she was. How isn't that a steam at any rate? He hammered it with his stick as he spoke. Pack of lies! And it won't make Gabriel kickle when Gordy comes panting up the geese with his tombstone balanced in his hump and asks it to be took as evidence. I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up. Oh, why did you tell of this? It is my favorite seat. I cannot leave it. And now I find I must go sitting on the grave of a suicide. Oh, that won't harm you, my pretty. And it may make poor Geordie gladsome to have so trim a lass sitting on his lap. It won't hurt ye. Why, I sat here off and on for nigh on 20 years past, and it hasn't done me no harm. Don't be fash about those lies as under ye, or that it doesn't lie out there either. It'll be time for ye to be getting scart when you get to see the tombstones all run away with, and the place be bare as a stubble field. There's the clock, and I must be gang. My service to you, ladies. And off he hobbled. Lucy and I stayed a while, and it was so beautiful for us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me over and over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. It made me just a little heartsick, for I hadn't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. That same day I came here alone, for I am very sad. There is no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock just struck 9. I see the lights scattered over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, sometimes singly. They run right up the Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof, the old house next to the abbey. The sheep and lambs are bleating in the fields away from behind me, and there's a clatter of donkeys' hooves up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quay there is the Salvation Army meeting in the back street. Neither of the bands hears the other, but up here I hear and see them both. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he is thinking of me. I wish he were here. Dr. Seward's Diary, 5th of June. Case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities very largely developed: selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could get at what it is. I wish I could get at what is the object of the latter. He seems to have some settled scheme of his own, but what it is I do not yet know. His redeeming quality is a love of animals, though indeed he has such curious turns in it that I sometimes imagine he is only abnormally cruel. His pets are of odd sorts. Just now his hobby is catching flies. He has at present such a quantity that I have myself to expostulate. I have had myself to expostulate. To my astonishment, he did not break out into a fury as I expected, but took the matter in simple seriousness. He thought for a moment and then said, "Say I have 3 days. I shall clear them away." Of course, I said that would do. I must watch him. 18th of June. He has turned his mind now to spiders and has got several very big fellows in a box. He keeps feeding them with his flies, and the number of the latter is becoming sensibly diminished, although he has used half his food in attracting more flies from outside his room. 1st of July. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told him that he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, so I said he must clear out some of them, at all evidence. He cheerfully acquiesced in this, gave him the same time as before for reduction. He disgusted me much while with him, for when a horrible blowfly, bloated by some carrion food, buzzed into the room, he caught it, held it exultantly for a few moments between his finger and thumb, before I knew what he was going to do, put it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued quietly that it was very good and very wholesome, that it was life, strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea, or the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. He has evidently some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook in which he's always jotting down something. Whole pages of it are filled with masses of figures, generally single numbers added up in batches, and then the total added up in batches again, as though he were focusing some account, as the auditors put it. Eighth of July. There is a method in his madness, and the rudimentary idea in my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon, and then, oh, unconscious celebration, you will have to give the wall to your conscious brother. I kept away from my friend for a few days so that I might notice if there was any change. Things remain as they were, except that he has parted with some of his pets and got a new one. He has managed to get a sparrow. He's already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for already the spiders have diminished. Those that do remain, however, are well fed, for he still brings the flies by tempting them with his food. 19th of July. We are progressing. My friend now has a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor. A very, very great favor, and as he spoke, he fawned on me like a dog. I asked him what it was, and he said, with a sort of rapture in his voice and bearing, a kitten, a nice, sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach, and feed, and feed, and feed. I was not unprepared for this request, for I had noticed how his pets went on increasing in size and vivacity. I did not care that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and the spiders. So I said I would see about it, and asked him if he would not rather have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness betrayed him when he answered, "Oh, yes, I would like a cat. I only asked for a kitten lest you refuse me a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they?" I shook my head and said that at present I feared it would not be possible, but I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it, for there was a sudden, fierce, sidelong look which meant killing. The man is an undeveloped homicidal maniac. I shall test him with his present craving and see how it will work out, and then I shall know more. 10 p.m. I visited him again and found him sitting in a corner brooding. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees before me and implored me to let him have a cat, that his salvation depended upon it. I was firm, however, and told him that he could not have it, whereupon he went without a word and sat down, gnawing his fingers in the corner where I had found him. I shall see him in the morning, early. 20th of July. Visited Renfeld very early before the attendant went his rounds. Found him up and humming a tune. He was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved in the window, and was manifestly beginning his fly catching again, and beginning it cheerfully and with a good grace. I looked around for his birds, and, not seeing them, asked them where they were. He replied, without turning around, that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow a drop of blood. I said nothing, but went and told the keeper to report it to me if there was anything odd about him during the day. 11 a.m. The attendant has just been to me to say that Renfield has been very sick and has disgorged a whole lot of feathers. "I believe his doctor," he said, "that he has eaten his birds, and he just took and ate them raw." 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong opiate tonight, enough to make even him sleep. Took away his pocketbook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing about my brain lately is complete, and the theory proved. My homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him and call him a zoophagus, life-eating maniac. What he desires is to absorb as many lives as he can, and he has laid himself out to achieve it in a cumulative way. He gave many flies to one spider, and many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat many birds. That would have been his later step. Almost be worthwhile to complete the experiment. I might be done if there was only a sufficient cause. Men sneered at vivisection. Look at its results today. Why not advance science in its most difficult and vital aspect, the knowledge of the brain? Had I even the secret of one such mind, did I hold the key to the fancy of even one lunatic, I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with which Burton Sanderson's physiology or Ferrier's brain knowledge would be as nothing, if only there were sufficient cause. I must not think too much on this, or I may be tempted. A good cause might turn the scale with me, may not I too be of an exceptional brain progenitally? How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do within their own scope. I wonder how many lives he values a man, or if it only one. He has closed the account most accurately, and today begun a new record. How many of us begin a new record with each day of our lives? To me, it seems only yesterday that my whole life ended with my new hope, and that truly I began a new record. So will it be until the great recorder sums me up and closes my ledger account with a balance of profit or loss. Oh, Lucy. Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor can I be angry with my friend whose happiness is yours. But I must only wait on hopeless work. 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 If only I could have as strong a cause as my poor mad friend there. A good, unselfish cause to make me work. That would be indeed happiness. Mina Murray's journal, 26th of July. I am anxious. It soothes me to express myself here. It's like a whispering to oneself and listening at the same time. And there is something about the shorthand symbols that makes it different from writing. I am unhappy about Lucy and about Jonathan. I had not heard from Jonathan for some time and was very concerned. Yesterday, dear Mr. Hawkins, who is always so kind, sent me a letter from him. I had written asking if he had heard, and he said enclosed had just been received. It is only a line dated from Castle Dracula, and it says that he is just starting for home. It is not like Jonathan. I do not understand it, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy, although she is well, has lately taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. Her mother has spoken to me about it, and we have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. Miss Western have got an idea that sleepwalkers always go out on roofs of houses and along the edges of cliffs, and then get suddenly wakened and fall over with a despairing cry that echoes all over the place. Poor dear. He is naturally anxious about Lucy. He tells me that her husband, Lucy's father, had the same habit, that he would get up in the night and dress himself and go out if he were not stopped. Lucy is to be married in the autumn. Or I do the same, only Jonathan and I will start life in a very simple way, and she'll have to try to make both ends meet. Mr. Holmwood, he is the Honorable Arthur Holmwood, only son of Lord Godalming, is coming up here very shortly, as soon as he can leave town, for his father is not very well. I think dear Lucy is counting the moments till he comes. She wants to take him up in the seat of the churchyard cliff and show him the beauty of Whitby. I dare say it is the wanting which disturbs her. He will be all right when he arrives. 27th of July. No news from Jonathan. I am getting quite uneasy about him, though why I should I do not know. I do wish that he would write, if it were only a single line. Lucy walks more than ever. Each night I am awakened by her moving about the room. Fortunately, the weather is so hot she cannot get cold, but still the anxiety and the perpetually being wakened is beginning to tell on me, and I am getting nervous and wakeful myself. Thank God Lucy's health. Thank God Lucy's health keeps up. Mr. Holmwood has been suddenly called to ring to see his father, who has been taken seriously ill. Lucy frets at the postponement of seeing him, but it does not touch her looks. She is a trifle stouter, and her cheeks are a lovely rose pink. She has lost that anemic look which she had. Pray it will last. The 3rd of August. Another week gone, and no news from Jonathan. Not even to Mr. Hawkins, from whom I had heard. Oh, I do hope he is not ill. He surely would have written. I look at that last letter of his. Somehow it does not satisfy me. It does not read like him, and yet it is his writing. There is no mistake for that. Lucy has not walked much in her sleep the last week, but there is an odd concentration about her which I do not understand. Even in her sleep she seems to be watching me. She tries the door, and finding it locked, goes about the room searching for the key. 6th of August. Another 3 days and no news. The suspense is getting dreadful. If only I knew where to write or where to go, I should feel easier. But no one has heard a word of Jonathan since that last letter. I must only pray to God for patience. Lucy is more excitable than ever, but is otherwise well. last night was very threatening, and the fishermen say that we are in for a storm. I must try to watch it and learn the weather sign. Day is a grey day, and the sun is, as I write, hidden in thick clouds high over Kettleness. Everything is grey except the green grass, which seems like emerald amongst it. Grey earthy rock, grey clouds, tinged with the sunburst far edge, hang over the grey sea, into which the sand points stretch like grey fingers. The sea is tumbling in over the shallows, and the sandy flats with a roar, muffled in the sea mists drifting inland. The horizon is lost in grey mist. All is vastness. The clouds are piled up like giant rocks, and there is a brool over the sea that sounds like some presage of doom. Dark figures are on the beach here and there, sometimes half shrouded in the mist, and seem men like trees walking. The fishing boats are racing home, and rise and dip in the ground swell as they sweep into the harbor, bending to the scuppers. Here comes Mr. Swales. He's making straight for me, and I can see, by the way that he lifts his hat, that he wants to talk. I've been quite touched by the change in the poor old man. He sat down beside me. He said in a very gentle way, "I want to say something to you, miss." I see that he was not at ease, so I took his poor old wrinkled hand in mine and asked him to speak fully. So he said, leaving his hand in mine, "I am afraid, my dearie, that I must have shocked you by all the wicked things I've been saying about the dead and such like for weeks past. But I didn't mean them, and I want you to remember that when I'm gone, we odd folks be the daft'll. There was one fit of a baft in the crook hole, and the crook hole, I don't altogether like to think of it, and we don't want to feel scart of it, and that's why I took to making light of it, so that I'd cheer up my own heart a bit. But, Lord love you, miss, I ain't afraid of dying, not a bit. Only I don't want to die if I can help it. My time must be nigh at hand now, for I be old, and 100 years is too much for any old man to expect. So, I'm saying I'm so nigh that odd man is already wet in his sight. You see, I can't get out of habit of coughing about it all at once. The chaps will wag as they be used to. Some day soon the angel of death will sound his trumpet for me. But don't you do it all in Greek, my dearie." For he saw that I was crying. "If he should come this very night, I'd not refuse to answer his call. For life be, after all, only waiting for something else than what we're doing, and death be all that we can rightly depend on. But I'm content, for it's coming to me, my dearie, and coming quick. It may be coming while we be looking and wondering. Maybe it's in that wind out there over the sea that's bringing in with loss and wreck, and sore distress and sad hearts. Look, he cried suddenly. There's something in that wind, in the host, beyond that sounds and looks and tastes and smells like death. It's in the air. I feel it coming. Lord, make me answer cheerful when my call comes." He held up his arms devoutly and raised his hat. His mouth moved as though he were praying. After a few minutes' silence, he got up, shook hands with me, and blessed me, and said goodbye, and hobbled off. It all touched me, and upset me very much. I was very glad when the Coast Guard came along with his spyglass under his arm. He stopped to talk with him. He stopped to talk with me, as he always does, but all the time kept looking at a strange ship. "I can't make her out," he said. "She's a Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in the queerest way. She doesn't know her mind a bit. She seems to the storm coming. I can't decide whether to run up north in the open or to put in here. Look, there again. She's steered mighty strangely. If she don't mind the hand on the wheel, changes about with every puff of the wind. We'll hear more of her before this time tomorrow." That is the end of chapter 6. The ads are upon us. We will take another brief little break. See you all very soon, everybody. right, and we are back, starting with Chapter 7, Ina Murray's Journal. Right there we go. Same day, 11 o'clock p.m. Oh, but I am tired. If it were not that I had made my diary a duty, I should not open it tonight. We had a lovely walk. Lucy, after a while, was in gay spirits, owing, I think, to some dear cows who came nosing towards us in a field close to the lighthouse, and frightened the wits out of us. I believe we forgot about everything. I believe we forgot everything except, of course, a personal fear, and seemed to wipe the slate clean and give us a fresh start. We had a capital, severe tea at Robin Hood's Bay in a sweet old-fashioned inn, with a bow window right over the seaweed-covered rocks of the Strand. I believe we should have shocked the new woman with our appetites. Men are tolerant. Men are more tolerant, bless them. Then we walked home with some, or rather many, stoppages to rest, with our hearts full of a constant red, wild bull. Lucy was really tired, and we intended to creep off the bed as soon as we could. The young curate came in, however, and Miss Westerner asked him to stay for supper. Lucy and I had both a fight for it with the Dusty Miller. I know it was hard. I know it was a hard fight on my part, and I am quite heroic. I think that some day the bishops must get together and see about breeding up a new class of curates who don't take supper, no matter how they may be pressed to, and who will know when girls are tired. Lucy's asleep and breathing softly. She has more color in her cheeks than usual, and looks oh so sweet. If Mr. Homewood fell in love with her, seeing her only in the drawing room, I wonder what he would say if he saw her now. One of the new women writers will some day start an idea that men and women should be allowed to see each other asleep before proposing or accepting. But I suppose the new woman won't condescend in future to accept that she will do the proposing herself. And a nice job she will make of it, too. There's some consolation in that. I am so happy tonight because dear Lucy seems better. I really believe she has turned the corner and that we are over her troubles with dreaming. I should be quite happy if I only knew Jonathan. God bless and keep him. I mean, uh, someday, women people might be allowed to see each other before asleep before proposing or accepting. I mean, just, maybe someday might happen. 11 August, 3 a.m. Diary again. No sleep now. I may as well write. I am too agitated to sleep. You've had such an adventure, such an agonizing experience. I fell asleep as soon as I had closed my diary. Suddenly, I became broad awake and sat up with a terrible, horrible sense of fear upon me, and of some feeling of emptiness around me. The room was dark, so I could not see Lucy's bed. I stole across and felt for her. The bed was empty. I lit a match and found that she was not in the room. The door was shut, but not locked, as I had left. I feared to wake her mother, who has been more than usually ill lately, so threw on some clothes and got ready to look for her. As I was leaving the room, it struck me that the clothes she wore might give me some clue to her dreamy intention. Dressing gown would mean house, dress outside. Dressing gown and dress were both in their places. Thank God, I said to myself. She cannot be far. She is only in her nightdress. I ran downstairs and looked in the sitting room. Not there. And then I looked in all the other open rooms of the house, the ever-growing fear chilling in my heart. Finally, I came to the hall door and found it open. It was not wide open, but the catch of the lock had not caught. People of the house are careful to lock the door every night, so I feared that Lucy must have gone out as she was. There was no time to think of what might happen. A vague, overmastering fear obscured all details. I took a big, heavy shawl and ran out. The clock was striking 1 as I was in the crescent, and there was not a soul in sight. I ran along the north terrace. I could see no sign of the white figure which I expected. At the edge of the west cliff above the pier, I looked across the harbor to the east cliff in the hope or fear, I don't know which, of seeing Lucy in our favorite seat. There was a bright, full moon with heavy, black, driving clouds, which threw the whole scene into a fleeting diorama of light and shade as they sailed across. For a moment or two, I could see nothing, as the shadow of a cloud obscured St. Mary's Church and all around it. Then, as the cloud passed, I could see the ruins of the abbey coming into view, and as the edge of a narrow band of light as sharp as a sword cut moved along, the church and the churchyard became gradually visible. Whatever my expectation was, it was not disappointed, for there, on our favorite seat, the silver light of the moon struck a half-reclining figure, snowy white. The coming of the cloud was too quick for me to see much. The shadows shut down light on light almost immediately. It seemed to me as though something dark stood behind the seat where the white figure shone, and bent over it. What it was, whether man or beast, I could not tell. I did not wait to catch another glance, but flew down the steep steps to the pier and along by the fish market to the bridge, which was the only way to reach the east cliff. The town seemed as dead, for not a soul did I see. I rejoiced that it was so, for I wanted no witness of poor Lucy's condition. Time and distance seemed endless, and my knees trembled, and my breath came labored as I toiled up the endless steps to the abbey. I must have gone fast, and yet it seemed to me as if my feet were weighted with lead, and as though every joint in my body were rusted. When I got almost to the top, I could see the seat and the white figure, for I was now close enough to distinguish it even through the spells of shadow. There was undoubtedly something long and black bending over the half-reclining white figure. I called in a fright, "Lucy! Lucy!" And something raised a head, but from where I was, I could see a white face and red, gleaming eyes. Lucy did not answer, and I ran on to the entrance of the churchyard. As I entered, the church was between me and the seat, and for a minute or so I lost sight of her. When I came in view again, the cloud had passed. The moonlight struck so brilliantly that I could see Lucy half reclining with her head lying over the back of the seat. She was quite alone, and there was not a sign of any living thing about. When I bent over her, I could see that she was still asleep. Her lips were parted, and she was breathing, not as softly as usual with her, but in long, heavy gasps, as though striving to get her lungs full at every breath. As I came close, she put up her hand in her sleeve and pulled the collar of her nightdress close around her throat. While she did so, there came a little shudder through her, as though she felt cold. I flung the warm shawl over her, and drew the edges tight round her neck, for I dreaded lest she should get some deadly chill from the night air, unclad as she was. I feared to wake her all at once, so in order to have my hands free that I might help her, I fastened the shawl at her throat with a big safety pin. But I must have been clumsy in my anxiety, and pinched or pricked her with it, For by and by, when her breathing became quieter, she put her hand to her throat again and moaned. When I had her carefully wrapped up, I put my shoes on her feet and then began very gently to wake her. At first she did not respond, but gradually she became more and more uneasy in her sleep, moaning, sighing occasionally. At last, as time was passing fast, for as many other reasons I wished to get her home at once, I shook her more forcibly till finally she opened her eyes and awoke. She did not seem surprised to see me, as, of course, she did not realize all at once where she was. Lucy always wakes up prettily, and even at such a time, when her body must have been chilled with cold, her mind somewhat appalled at waking unclad in a churchyard at night, she did not lose her grace. She trembled a little and clung to me when I told her to come at once with me home. She rose without a word, the obedience of a child. As we passed along, the gravel hurt my feet, and Lucy noticed me wince. She stopped and wanted to insist upon my taking my shoes, but I would not. However, when we got to the pathway outside the churchyard, where there was a puddle of water remaining from the storm, I daubed my feet with mud, using each foot in turn of the other, so that as we went home, no one, in case we should meet anyone, should notice my bare feet. Fortune favored us, and we got home without meeting a soul. Once we saw a man who seemed not quite sober passing along the street in front of us, but we hid in a door until he had disappeared up an opening such as there are here, deep little closes or wines, as they call them in Scotland. My heart beat so loud all the time that sometimes I thought I should faint. I was filled with anxiety about Lucy, not only for her health, lest she should suffer from the exposure, but for her reputation in case the story should get wind. When we got in and had washed our feet and said a prayer of thankfulness together, I tucked her into bed. Before falling asleep, she asked, even implored me, not to say a word to anyone, even her mother, about her sleepwalking adventure. I hesitated at first to promise, but on thinking of the state of her mother's health and how the knowledge of such a thing would fret her, and thinking too how such a story might become distorted, nay, infallibly would, in case it should leak out, I thought it wiser to do so. I hope I did right. I have locked the door and the key is tied to my wrist, but perhaps I shall not again be disturbed. Lucy is sleeping soundly. The reflex of the dawn is high and far over the sea. Same day, noon. All goes well. Lucy slept till I woke her and seemed not to have even changed her side. The adventure of the night does not seem to have harmed her. On the contrary, it has benefited her. For she looks better this morning than she has done for weeks. I was sorry to notice that my clumsiness with the safety pin hurt her. Indeed, it might have been serious, for the skin of her throat was pierced. I must have pinched up a piece of loose skin and have to have transfixed it, for there were two little red points like pinpricks. On the band of her nightdress was a drop of blood. When I apologized and was concerned about it, she laughed and petted me and said she did not even feel it. Fortunately, it cannot leave a scar, as it is so tiny. Same day, night. We passed a happy day. The air was clear and the sun bright, and there was a cool breeze. We took our lunch to the Mulgrave Woods. Miss Westenra driving by the road, and Lucy and I walking by the cliff path and joining her at the gate. I felt a little sad myself, for I could not but feel how absolutely happy it would be to have Jonathan been with me, to have had Jonathan been with me. But there, I must only be patient. In the evening, we strolled in the casino terrace and heard some good music by Spohr and Mackenzie, and went to bed early. Lucy seems more restful than she has been for some time, and fell asleep at once. I shall lock the door and secure the key, same as before, though I do not expect any trouble tonight. 12th of August. My expectations were wrong, for twice during the night I was awakened by Lucy trying to get out. She seemed, even in her sleep, to be a little impatient at finding the door shut, and went back to bed under a sort of protest. I woke with the dawn and heard the birds chirping outside the window. Lucy woke too, and I was glad to see it was even better than on the previous morning. All her old gaiety of manner seemed to have come back, and she came and snuggled in beside me and told me all about Arthur. I told her how anxious I was about Jonathan, and then she tried to comfort me. Well, she succeeded somewhat, for though sympathy can't alter facts, it can help to make them more bearable. 13th of August. Another quiet day, and to bed with the key on my wrist as before. Again I awoke in the night and found Lucy sitting up in bed, still asleep, pointing to the window. I got up quietly and, pulling aside the blind, looked out. It was brilliant moonlight, and the soft effect of the light over the sea and sky merged together in one great silent mystery. It was beautiful beyond words. Between me and the moonlight flitted a great bat, coming and going in great whirling circles. Once or twice it came quite close, but I suppose, frightened at seeing me, and flitted away across the harbor towards the abbey. When I came back from the window, Lucy had lain down once again, and was sleeping peacefully. She did not stir again all night. 14th of August. On the east cliff, reading and writing all day, Lucy seems to have become as much in love with this spot as I am, and it's hard to get her away from it when it's time to come home for lunch or tea or dinner. This afternoon, she made a funny remark. We were coming home from dinner and had to come on top of the and had to come to the top of the steps from the west pier and stop to look at the view as we generally do. The setting sun, low in the sky, was just dropping behind the Kettleness. The red light was thrown over on the east cliff and the old abbey, and seemed to bathe everything in a beautiful rosy glow. We were silent for a while, and suddenly murmured as if to herself, "His red eyes again. They're just the same." It was an odd expression, coming apropos of nothing, and that it quite startled me. I slewed round a little, so as to see Lucy well without seeming to stare at her, and saw that she was in a half-dreamy state, with an odd look on her face that I could not quite make out. So I said nothing, but followed her eyes. She appeared to be looking over at her own seat, whereupon was a dark figure seated alone. I was a little startled myself, for it seemed for an instant as if the stranger had great eyes like burning flames. But a second look dispelled the illusion. The red sunlight was shining on the windows of St. Mary's Church behind our seat, and as the sun dipped, there was just sufficient change in the refraction and reflection to make it appear as if the light moved. I called Lucy's attention to the peculiar effect, and she became herself with a start, but she looked sad all the same. It may have been that she was thinking of that terrible night up there. We never referred to it, so I said nothing, and we went home to dinner. Lucy had a headache and went early to bed. I saw her asleep and went out for a little stroll myself. I walked along the cliffs to the westward, and was full of sweet sadness, for I was thinking of Jonathan. When coming home, it was then bright moonlight, so bright that through the front of our part of the crescent was in shadow, everything could be well seen. I threw a glance up at our window and saw Lucy's head leaning out. I thought that perhaps she was looking out for me, so I opened my handkerchief and waved it. She did not notice or make any movement whatsoever. Just then, moonlight crept round an angle of the building, and the light fell on the window. There, distinctly, was Lucy with her head lying up against the side of the window sill and her eyes shut. She was fast asleep, and by her seated upon the window sill, something that looked like a good-sized bird. I was afraid that she might get a chill, so I ran upstairs. But as I came into the room, she was moving back into her bed, fast asleep and breathing heavily. She was holding her hand to her throat, as if to protect from the cold. I did not wake her, but tucked her up warmly. I have taken care of that the door is locked and the window securely fastened. She looks so sweet when she sleeps. She is paler than her wont. There is a drawn, haggard look under her eyes which I do not like. I fear that she is fretting about something. I wish we could find out what it is. 15th of August. Rose later than usual. Lucy was languid and tired and slept on after we had been called. We had a happy surprise at breakfast. Arthur's father is better and wants the marriage to come off soon. Lucy is full of quiet joy, and her mother is glad and sorry at once. Later on in the day, she told me the cause. She is grieved to lose Lucy as her very own, but she is rejoiced that she is soon to have someone to protect her. Poor, dear, sweet lady. She confided in me. She has got her death warrant. She has not told Lucy, and has made me promise secrecy. Her doctor told her that within a few months at most, she must die, for her heart is weakening. At any time, even now, a sudden shock would almost surely kill her, be sure to kill her. Ah, we were wise to keep from her the affair of the dreadful night of Lucy's sleepwalking. 17th of August. No diary for 2 whole days. I have not had the heart to write. Some sort of shadowy pall seems to be coming over our happiness. No news from Jonathan, and Lucy seems to be growing weaker, whilst her mother's hours are numbering to a close. I do not understand Lucy's fading away as she is doing. She eats well and sleeps well and enjoys the fresh air, but all the time the roses in her cheeks are fading, and she's getting weaker and more languid day by day. At night, I hear her gasping as if for air. I keep I keep the key of our door always fastened to my wrist at night, but she gets up and walks about the room and sits at the open window. Last night I found her leaning out when I woke up. When I tried to wake her, could not. She was in a faint. When I managed to restore her, she was as weak as water and cried silently between long, painful struggles for breath. When I asked her how she came to be at the window, she shook her head and turned away. I trust her feeling ill may not be from that unlucky prick of the safety pin. I looked at her throat just now as she lay asleep. The tiny wounds seem not to have healed. They are still open, and if anything, larger than before. The edges of them are faintly white. They are like little white dots with red centers. Once they heal within a day or two, I shall insist the doctors on the doctor seeing about them. Letter Samuel F. Billington and Sons, Solicitors, Whitby, to Messrs. Carter, Pattison Company, London, 17th of August. Dear Sirs, herewith please receive invoice of goods sent by Great Northern Railway. Same are to be delivered at Carfax near Purfleet, immediately on receipt of goods at Good Stations, King's Cross. The house is at present empty, but enclosed please find keys, all of which are labeled. You will please deposit the boxes, 50 in number, which form the consignment, in the partially ruined building forming part of the house and marked A on the rough diagram enclosed. Your agent will easily recognize the locality, as it is the ancient chapel of the mansion. The goods leave by train at 9:30 tonight, and will be due at King's Cross at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. As our clients wishes the delivery be made as soon as possible, we shall be obliged by your having teams ready at King's Cross at the time named and forthwith conveying the goods to destination. In order to obviate any delays possible through any routine requirements as to the payment of your departments, we enclose check hereafter £10, recipient of which please acknowledge. Receipt of which please acknowledge. Should the charge be less than this amount, you can you can return balance. If greater, fill out 1 cent check for difference upon hearing from you. You want to leave the keys on coming away in the main hall of the house. The proprietor may get them on his entering the house by means of his duplicate key. Pray do not take us as exceeding the bounds of business courtesy and pressing you in all ways to use the utmost expedition. We, dear sirs, faithfully yours, Samuel S. Billington and Son. Letters, Monsieur Carter, Patterson Company, London, to Messrs. Billington and Son, Whitby. Dear sirs, we beg to acknowledge the £10 received, and to return the check of £1, 17. Oh God, I don't know that. 17 shillings and 9. I don't know what the D is supposed to be. Oh. What? Huh. Hmm. I'm just going to say pence. That's the best I can guess. And 9 pence. Amount of overplus as shown in receipted amount herewith. Goods are delivered in exact accordance with instructions, and keys left in the parcel in the main hall as directed. Be yours respectfully, Crocutter Patterson Company. Mina Murray's Journal. 18 August. I am happy today and right sitting on the seat in the churchyard. Lucy is ever so much better. Last night she slept well all night and did not disturb me once. The roses seem coming back already in her cheeks, though she is still sadly pale and wan-looking. If she were in any way anemic, I could understand it, but she is not. She is in gay spirits and full of life and cheerfulness. All the morbid reticence seems to have passed from her, and she has just reminded me, as if I needed any reminding, of that night. That it was here on this very seat I found her asleep, and she told me she tapped playfully with the heel of her boot on the stone slab and said, "My poor little feet didn't make much noise then. I dare say old Mr. Swales would have told me that it was because I didn't want to wake up Geordie." She was in such a communicative humor, I asked her if she had dreamed it all that night. Before she answered, that sweet, puckered look came onto her forehead, which Arthur, I call him Arthur, her habit, says he loves. And indeed, I don't wonder what that he does. Then she went on in a half-dreaming kind of way, as if trying to recall it to herself. I didn't quite dream, but it all seemed to be real. To be real. I only wanted to be here in this spot. I don't know why, for I was afraid of something, and I don't know what. I remember, though, I suppose I was asleep, passing through the streets and over the bridge. A fish leaped as I went by, and I leaned over to look at it, and I heard a lot of dogs howling. The whole town seemed as if it must be full of dogs, all howling at once as I went up the steps. Then I had a vague memory of something long and dark with red eyes, just as we saw in the sunset, and something very sweet and very bitter all around me at once. And then I seemed sinking into deep green water, and there was a singing in my ears. as I have heard there is to drowning men. And then everything seemed passing away from me. My soul seemed to go out from my body and float up out in the air. I seem to remember that once the West Lighthouse was right under me, and then there was a sort of agonizing feeling, as if I were in an earthquake, and I came back and found you shaking my body. I saw you do it before I felt you. And then she began to laugh. She seemed it seemed a little uncanny to me, and I listened to her breathlessly. I did not quite like it. I thought it better not to keep her mind on the subject. So we drifted on to other subjects. Lucy was like her old self again. When we got home, the fresh breeze had braced her up, and her pale cheeks were really more rosy. Her mother rejoiced when she saw her, and we all spent a very happy evening together. 19th of August. Joy, 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 although not all joy. At last, news of Jonathan. The dear fellow has been ill. That is why he did not write. I am not afraid to think or say it, now that I know. Mr. Hawkins sent me the letter and wrote himself oh so kindly. I am to leave in the morning and go over to Jonathan and to help to nurse him if necessary and to bring him home. Mr. Hawkins said it would not be a bad thing if we were to be married out there. I have cried over the good sister's letter till I could feel it wet against my bosom where it lies. It is of Jonathan and must be next to my heart, for he is in my heart. My journey is all mapped out, and my luggage ready. I am only taking one change of dress. Lucy will bring my trunk to London and keep it till I send for it. For it may be that I must write no more. I must keep it to say Jonathan, my husband. That letter that he has seen and touched must comfort me till we meet. Letter, Sister Agatha, Hospital St. Joseph and St. Mary, Budapest, Miss Wilhelmina Murray, 12 August. Dear Madam, I write by desire of Mr. Jonathan Harker, who is himself not strong enough to write, though progressing well, thanks to God and St. Joseph and St. Mary. He has been under our care for nearly 6 weeks, suffering from a violent brain fever. He wishes me to convey his love, and to say that by this post I write for him to Mr. Peter Hawkins, Exeter, to say, with his dutiful respects, that he is sorry for his delay, and that all of his work is complete. He will require some weeks' rest in our sanatorium in the hills, but then will return. He wishes me to say that he has not sufficient money with him, and that he would like to pay for his staying here, so that others who need shall not be wanting for help. Leave me yours with sympathy and all blessings, Sister Agatha. Yes, my patient being asleep, I open this to let you know something more. He has told me all about you, and that you are shortly to be his wife. All blessings to you both. He has had some fearful shock, so says our doctor, and in his deliriums his ravings have been dreadful, of wolves and poison and blood, of ghosts and demons, and I fear to say of what. Be careful with him always, that there may be nothing to excite him of this kind for a long time to come. The traces of such an illness as his do not lightly die away. We should have written long ago, but we knew nothing of his friends, and there was on him nothing that anyone could understand. He came in the train from Klausenburg, and the guard was told by the station master there that he rushed into the station shouting for a ticket for home. Seeing from his violent demeanor that he was English, we gave him a ticket to the furthest station on the way thither, and that the train reached. Be assured that he is well cared for. He has won all hearts by his sweetness and gentleness. He is truly getting on well, and I have no doubt that will in a few weeks be all himself. But be careful of him for safety's sake. There are, I pray to God and St. Joseph and St. Mary, many, many happy years for you both. Dr. Seward's Diary. 19th of August. Strange and sudden change in Renfield last night. About 8 o'clock he began to get excited and sniff about as a dog does when setting. The attendant was struck by his manner, and, knowing my interest in him, encouraged him to talk. He is usually respectful to the attendant and at times servile, but tonight, the man tells me, he was quite haughty. Would not condescend to talk with him at all. All he would say was, I don't want to talk to you. You don't count now. The master is at hand. The attendant thinks it is some sudden form of religious mania which has seized him. If so, you must look out for squalls, for a strong man with homicidal and religious mania at once might be dangerous. The combination is a dreadful one. At 9 o'clock, I visited him myself. His attitude to me was the same as to the attendant. In his sublime self-feeling, the difference between myself and attendant seemed to him as nothing. It looks like a religious mania, and he will soon think of himself, and soon he think that he himself is God. These infinitesimal distinctions between man and man are too paltry for an omnipotent being. How these madmen give themselves way. The real God taketh heed lest a sparrow fall. The true God, created from human vanity, sees no difference between an eagle and a sparrow. Oh, if men only knew. For half an hour or more, Renfeld kept getting excited in greater and greater degree. I do not pretend to be watching him, but I keep strict observation all the same. All at once that shifty look came into his eyes, which we always see when a madman had seized an idea. With it the shifty movement of the head back, in which asylum attendants come to know all so well. He became quite quiet, and went and sat at the edge of his bed resignedly, and looked into space with lackluster eyes. I thought I would find out if his apathy were real or only assumed, and tried to lead him into talk of his pets, a theme which had never failed to excite his attention. At first he made no reply, but at length said testily, "Bother them all. I don't care a pin about them." "What?" I said. "You don't mean to tell me that you don't care about spiders?" Spiders at present are his hobby, and the notebook is filling up with columns of small figures. This he answered enigmatically. "The bride maidens rejoice, the eyes that wait the coming of the bride. But when the bride draweth nigh, then the maidens shine not to the eyes that are filled." He would not explain himself, but remained obstinately seated in his bed all the time I remained with him. I am weary tonight, and low in spirits. I cannot but think of Lucy, and how different things might have been. If I don't sleep at once, chloral, the modern Morpheus. C2HCl3O. That's carbon hydrochloride? Peroxide? Not sure. H2O. Must be careful not to let it grow into a habit. No, I shall take none tonight. I have thought of Lucy, and I shall not dishonor her by mixing the two. If need be, tonight shall be sleepless. Later. Glad I made the resolution, gladder that I kept it. I had lain tossing about, and had heard the clock strike only twice, when the night watchman came to me, sent up from the ward, to say that Renfield had escaped. I threw on my clothes and ran down at once. My patient, too dangerous a person to be roaming about. Those ideas of his might work out dangerously with strangers. The attendant was waiting for me. He said he had seen him not 10 minutes before, seemingly asleep in his bed, when he had looked through the observation trap in the door. His attention was called by the sound of the window being wrenched out. He ran back and saw his feet disappear through the window, and had at once sent up for me. He was only in his night gear. He cannot be far off. The attendant thought it would be more useful to watch where he should go than to follow him, as he might lose sight of him whilst getting out of the building by the door. He is a bulky man, couldn't get through the window. I am thin, so with his aid I got out, but feet foremost, as we were only a few feet above the ground, landed unhurt. And as we were only a few feet above the ground, landed unhurt. The attendant told me the patient had gone to the left, and had taken a straight line, so I ran as quickly as I could. As I got through the belt of trees, I saw a white figure scale the high wall which separates our grounds from those of the deserted house. I ran back at once. Told the watchman to get 3 or 4 men immediately and follow me into the grounds of Carfax, in case our friend might be dangerous. I got a ladder myself and, crossing the wall, dropped down on the other side. I could see Renfield's figure just disappearing from behind the angle of the house, so I ran after him. On the far side of the house, I found him pressed close to the old iron-bound oak door of the chapel. He was talking, apparently, to someone, but I was afraid to go near enough to hear what he was saying, lest I might frighten him. And should he run off? Chasing an errant swarm of bees is nothing, following a naked lunatic, when the fit of escaping is upon him. After a few minutes, however, I could see that he did not take note of anything around him, and so ventured to draw nearer to him. More so as my men had now crossed the wall and were closing him in. I heard him say, "I am here to do your bidding, master. I, your slave, and you will reward me, for I shall be faithful. I have worshipped you long and afar off. Now that you are near, I await your commands, and you will not pass me by, will you, dear master, in your distribution of good things?" He is a selfish old beggar anyhow. He thinks of the loaves and fishes even when he believes he is in a real presence. His manias make a startling combination. When we closed on him, he fought like a tiger. He is immensely strong, for he was more like a wild beast than a man. I never saw a lunatic in such a paroxysm of rage before, and I hope I shall not again. It is a mercy that we have found out his strength and his danger in good time. With strength and determination like his, he might have done wild work before he was caged. He is safe now, at any rate. Jack Shepherd himself couldn't get free from the strait waistcoat that keeps him restrained, and he's chained to the wall in the padded room. His cries are at times awful. The silences that follow are more deadly still, for he means to murder in every turn and movement. Just now, spoke coherent words the first time. "I shall be patient, master. It is coming. Coming. Coming!" So I took the hint and came to. I was too excited to sleep, but this diary has quieted me. I feel I shall get some sleep tonight. End of chapter 8. Well, the plot thickens, the dread grows, and soon many a horrible thing will happen. We will stop here for tonight. Good several chapters. We're now starting at chapter 9. So, yeah, thank you all for stopping by. I hope you had a wonderful time. I will try to find us a place that is going to be calming. I will be back tomorrow, Saturday, with Dead Space, and we will be back to reading Dracula on Tuesday, with Dragon Age: The Veilguard on Monday evening. But thank you all again for showing up. I will find us someone to raid. I'll see who is available. And I know who we can raid. I know who we can say hello to, who will be almost certainly having a fairly calm and relaxing time. We'll go say hi to Starby. So, thank you all again. I'll put a raid message into the ending screen. You take care, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one, folks.